Show me the fever into the fire, taking it higher and higher. Nothing to fear, it's only desire, taking it higher and higher. Very apt lyrics for the type of movie that is Wet Hot American Summer. Nothing expresses the exuberance and over-the-top nature of the 80s and its characters like an 80s guitar riff, which honestly sums up the whole movie. Who came up with these fucking hilarious lyrics? They suggest that we have no idea what's going on, but we're going for it anyway, and I love it. Spoiler alert, this documentary is about the film version of Wet Hot American Summer that was released in 2001, and not about the spin-off Netflix series of the same name that was released in the 2010s. Whatever you do, do not watch the spin-off Netflix series. It is truly awful. I've watched a few episodes, and the only reason to watch it is for Kristen Wiig. She is brilliant in it, but the rest is unwatchable and is a disservice to the original film. It doesn't have the correct tone, not much comedy, and it lacks the irreverence and shoestring, fuck it mentality and young filmmaker vibes that the movie pulls off so effortlessly well. I really think that Netflix must have had some sort of say over the script, which influenced the way it was written in order to appeal to a mass audience and make as much money as possible through ad revenue. I have no idea how I found out about this film, and for the life of me I can't even think of who told me about it and why and when I initially watched it. All I know is that when I did, I loved it and still do to this day, and I think it's one of the great comedy classics of the early 2000s. Comedy is well known to be the hardest genre of them all to get correct, because it's either funny or it's not, and comedy is extremely subjective, and some people just don't have a sense of humor, or the humor is not very niche and it's very vague, and they just hope that in some universal way or sense something will make it funny. What Wet Hot American Summer does best is capture that unique humor that is portrayed in such a way that it's appealing to the masses, and also to those who know what real comedy is, and easily invite you into a world that's like a sneak peek into a secret friends group full of inside jokes. IMDb describes the film as follows. The setting is Camp Firewood, the year 1981. It's the last day before everyone goes back to the real world, but there's still a summer's worth of unfinished business to resolve. At the center of the action is camp director Beth, who struggles to keep order while she falls in love with the local astrophysics professor. He is busy trying to save the camp from a deadly piece of NASA's Skylab, which is hurtling toward Earth. All that, plus a dangerous waterfall rescue, love triangles, misfits, cool kids, and talking vegetable cans. The questions will be resolved, of course, at the big talent show at the end of the day. The movie is a parody film. It starts off quite conventionally and then moves off into many brilliant moments of inspired comedy. The sense of humor is very offbeat and more in the way of inspired silliness than in-your-face slapstick or raunchy humor. It really is absurd comedy and is a send-up of many other 80s movies. One scene that I did not find funny is the chase scene, where both parties become completely baffled by a single bale of hay lying in the middle of the road. I don't think that's inspired or hilarious, it's just stupid, but don't let that one scene put you off. I find individual scenes in the movie very funny, especially because of the off-the-wall quotes that are delivered, which is the heart of absurd comedy. And it was all well ahead of its time for 2001 and has influenced many TV sitcoms and programs to follow. I've shown this film to many friends of mine that aren't really into movies or that big into comedy in general, and they really liked it. And we still quote scenes occasionally to this day when a thought or reference pops up that reminds us of the film. The film has a lot of universal comedy in it, which is what the best types of comedy films have, and it brings people closer together because it makes us feel something deeper between us when we laugh together. The movie was released in 2001 and is set in 1981, so the production must have been in the early 2000s and even going back to the late 90s, which I think gives the film a certain overall unique mixture of tones, being end of century and start of a new decade. There was still a lot of positivity in the world at the time, being pre-September 11th, and it has a fresh feel to it and unique outlook that not many other films can claim to have. The cast of the film is outstanding and is notable for being Bradley Cooper's first film role, where he plays a gay counselor that works on the theatre production with Amy Poehler, who is, in her own right, one of the funniest comedic actresses of all time. Additionally, there is Molly Shannon, who falls in love with a young camp attendee when he helps her to get over a breakup. Janine Garofalo plays Beth, the head of the camp counselors, who has a crush on David Hyde Pierce of Frasier fame, who is the astrophysics teacher. Paul Rudd plays Andy, the good-looking dumb guy, and the beautiful Elizabeth Banks is also in it. Michael Showalter, who is also one of the writers, plays Coop, and Alan Shemper, the MC at the talent show. I think what the film does so well is portraying that adolescent universal humor in such a relatable way that you just know that it's all based on real circumstances that took place at an actual summer camp in the 80s, with a bunch of kids sitting around the lunch table, cracking jokes about the counselors and the weird circumstances they found themselves in. The spirit of Wet Hot American Summer is what I really like about it. I like that it was written by two guys who had gone to a summer camp and then used those stories to present to the world a hilarious glimpse of their lives and experiences and a slice of Americana for the world. I think the two writers, David Wayne and Michael Showalter, absolutely nailed it with the irreverence and silliness, which is taking serious situations stupidly, and showcases their unique sense of humor, which is really on display in this film. The comedic acting in the film is very good, and you can tell that everybody on set was standing off camera, having fun when the scenes were being shot. Also, all the kids who act in the film are excellent, and have a very good understanding of the mood of the film, and seem to be very aware of what they are involved in, and understand the humor, which is adolescent in nature, the humor of 12 to 16-year-olds, essentially. For me, I think the best character in the film is Jean, the cook who is a Vietnam vet with PTSD, who probably had too much Agent Orange at some point and came home a little bit cooked. The scene of him talking to the can of vegetables is brilliant and could have come off as extremely ridiculous and silly that it just wasn't funny, but it's done in such a way that the context is hilarious, and I really hope that the writers based this character on a real cook that worked in the summer camp they attended in the 80s. The soundtrack to the film adds an important layer with the aforementioned song and lyrics of Higher and Higher, delivering those cheesy 80s riffs, fully matching the 80s exuberance, much in the same way that was seen in Boogie Nights. The songs complement the actions of the film extremely well. The song Turn Me Loose by the Canadian band Loverboy is used to great effect in the chase scene, and is the best part about it and saves it from being completely a write-off. My favourite moments of the film, in no particular order, are the scene where the kid is thrown from the moving car. It's fucking hilarious, and I know that was for sure based on real life camp folklore where kids would probably just go missing, and is definitely one of the jokes the writers brought forward out of the original camp in the 80s. Paul Rudd's exasperation of being told to pick up the dinnerware never gets old, and the montage sequence is a beautiful homage to 80s filmmaking and works so well in the context of the film. This is Michael Showalter's best scene, when he struggles to do the dance moves under the tutelage of Jean the cook, and he turns around having slapped the wall and makes that painful face. It's brilliant. The talking can of vegetables giving Jean life advice is brilliant, and whoever voiced that character absolutely nailed it. And what that can says is fucking hilarious. You'll have to watch the film to find out. The scene where Janine Garofalo's character is getting beauty tips from the other counselor and doesn't know that mousse is something that should be applied to your hair and makes a little mousse action is brilliant. And it's something that I still quote and do to this day with people whenever mousse or mousses are brought up in conversation. When McKinley and Bradley Cooper's characters are getting married in the pagan hippie ceremony by the lake, one of the counselors is shocked to see somebody playing the flute, and the way he says he's playing the flute is brilliant. The inflection that he does of tone, how he says that, is comedy gold. Overall, I would rate the writing of the film a 7. It is very unique, and there really aren't many other comedy films, especially from the early 2000s, that are like it. With the subject matter and the dialogues, it's all very unique. The style of the film is a 9. They really nailed the 80s imagery and simplicity very well, especially with the music complementing the scenery, giving the film an extra kick and making it much more relatable. Overall, I would rate the film a 7. There are some really stupid and silly scenes and premises in the movie that are just not that funny, speaking for my own taste, but they are counterbalanced with extremely funny scenes that make everything work together in harmony. The writing and the cast shoulder the whole movie, and Wet Hot American Summer has gone on to find a sizable audience and is now considered by many to be a cult comedy classic. In summary, it's not the greatest comedy film ever made, but the movie is like comfort food for me, and I'm very thankful to the writers for capturing and sharing with the world their own unique humor and experiences from their adolescence, which has now become a part of the tapestry of my own life, whether that's in a phone call with my brother, a line quoted here or there, to a friend, a funny scene remembered, and for this I'm extremely thankful. Many thanks for watching. You can support the channel by subscribing to my 3-minute Monday comedy newsletter, link in the description.